One afternoon, Teo and Ram were headed up into the mountains above the tree line, hunting peregrine. They were on their way down when Teo looked below to see Volt and the clan hunters stalking a herd of red deer through the spruce forest. The herd was made up of 2 does with fawns, and together with a few yearlings. Teo counted them on his fingers, and they were 9 in all. 9 times. The wolf dog was eager to attack, but the boy held him back. They watched quietly from a distance as the hunters formed a large circle surrounding the unwary animals. If Teo could only get close enough for Ram to run in and pull down one of the deers, it would show how well the wolf dog could hunt. Cautiously, he led Ram down to the edge of the spruce wood as the hunters moved silently through the trees, getting ready to throw their spears. Unaware of the approaching danger, the deer grazed peacefully on moss and lichen, and Teo's heart raced as the hunters crept closer to the unsuspecting deer. If he let the wolf dog go soon, it would spook the animals and they'd all get away. So he moved silently, slowly, trying to get as close as possible. Even if Ram could not catch one of these animals, he might be able to drive them into the spears of the waiting hunters. And Teo knew it would have to be at just the right moment. The wolf dog was ready to spring, and the boy could feel the tension. He could feel the tension in his body. In the middle of the woods, the deer were still browsing quietly, and the hunter moved like leopard cats, slowly closing in the circle. At that moment, Teo saw a full-grown doe near the edge of the herd, tall, chestnut brown. She was the leader of the herd, and her black liquid eyes were alert, searching for danger. Ram could easily reach within her a few strides, but Teo waited. It was still too soon. "Stay," he whispered. The wolf dog's body trembled under Teo's hold as Ram strained to pull away. Still, Teo waited. Then he saw the big doe flinch. Her head came up. She sniffed the air. If she stamped and gave the alarm, the entire herd would disappear like the wind. Her body stiffened at the sense of danger, and Teo could wait no longer. With a quick nudge, he pushed Ram ahead and said, "Go! Go get him!" The wolf dog dashed out, running straight into the deer, and with great bounding leaps, he raced between the spruce trees and passed through a ring of hunters, closing in on the prey. The doe stamped and turned quickly, springing into the air with a single leap, and sprung around. For a flickering moment, both animals were blurred into one, and Teo was sure the wolf dog had made his kill. But when he looked again, he saw the big doe bounding away in the opposite direction. Quickly, Ram swerved to cut her off, but it was too late. The deer was already strides ahead of him. Teo groaned as he saw the rest of the herd scatter, and all the deer escaped through the ring of hunters. In his excitement, he had let Ram go too quickly. He heard the hunters grumbling and cursing, staring after the fleeing deer. Teo stood at the edge of the spruce wood, sinking feeling in his heart. He saw Ram come looping through the trees. Then he saw Garth jump out from under the underbrush directly in the wolf's path, threatening him with his spear. Ram crouched on the forest floor, his slitted eyes staring up at the leader. The hair on the back of his neck was bristling. "Ghost of evil!" roared Volt, stalking up behind Garth. "Scour of demons, I will cut out your black heart." Teo knew neither Volt nor Garth had seen him yet, and for one awful moment he waited in the shadows. Then he saw Volt raise his arm, and with all of his strength he hurled his spear straight at the crouching animal. But Teo was already vaulting through the air. Dun 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 dun! Throwing himself between Ram and the flying spear. His hand struck the wooden shaft of the weapon, knocking it to the ground. Volt spun around and looked at Teo, and then the wolf dog, and then back at Teo, a puzzled expression on his face. Then slowly, Volt began to understand. The burning fury filled his dark eyes. "Puh!" he cried, almost spitting out the word. "So this is how you hunt alone, huh? I should have known you and this evil beast are one." "No," said Teo, trying to explain. "The wolf dog is not bad. He is not an evil demon. He's a good hunter. He has helped me bring much game to the clan people." The big man scowled darkly, shaking his woolly head. "Nah," he sneered. "This beast is the soul of the devil, and you call him your friend." "He's my friend." He reached up to rub out the scars of his cheek and back into his hand. "This demon and his kind have haunted me my whole life, and I'm going to kill every last one of them." Garth stepped towards Teo, frowning, but Volt had already turned down the woods. "Come," he shouted to the hunter. "Help me kill this evil spirit and rid me of this curse." As Volt and Garth watched over the wolf dog, Teo crept into a nearby spruce tree. He heard the hunters coming. He knew there was no use pleading for Ram's life. Volt would not listen. The hunters would not care. Suddenly, he jumped away, shouting, "Come, Ram, come! Come here, boy! Come on! Get on, girl! Let's go! Come on!" The wolf dog sprang between the waiting men, racing towards Teo and down through the spruce tree and out across the open meadow. Teo did not look back, but he could hear the cries and shouts of the angry men as they followed, dodging and turning and lurching through the tall grass. The boy and wolf were barely managed to go ahead of the pursuers. Slipping through the birch stands, plunging into the high swamp grass, they reached the slough. Halfway there, Teo saw some of the hunters running to cut him off, and his heart sank. That route of escape was blocked. He'd have to take me to the river. Quickly he changed direction, leaping over the winding and winding brooks. The brushes and the trees became a blur of green. The ground sped away beneath him. He ran through the edge of the oak forest, vaulting along with his spear. His arm grew tired. If only he could stop and hide, so he could take a quick breath. Then he caught a whiff of smoke. He looked back and saw the tongues of yellow flames licking up into the sky. The hunters had started a grass fire to keep him from doubling back. He ran straight ahead and reached the river, stopping under the branches of a giant willow tree. Here he looked around, breathing heavily. The river was an invisible wall. On the far side of the land was the mountain people. For moments he paced that muddy bank with Ram, trying to make up his mind. Then he heard the shouts of the hunters. They were racing ahead of the fire, getting closer. On the other side of the river, the wolf dog would be safe. The hunters would not follow there. He looked down at Ram. You must go across the river and stay there until I call. Ram looked up, whimpering and whining. Tail pointed to the other shore. Go! He pushed the wolf into the water. Once, twice, Ram turned back, but Tail kept pushing him into the water. Go! Go now! He threw stones and sticks, chasing the wolf further and further out into the river, and soon Ram was swimming. Just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. Just keep swimming, swimming. Soon Ram was swimming. Teo saw his head bobbing in the water as the current carried him downstream. He watched as the wolf dog pulled him up south on the opposite side of the shore and shook him off. Shooka, shooka, shooka. He saw him look back once, twice, and then disappeared into the trees. A moment later, not a moment to spare, the hunters came crashing through the underbrush.